Traumatic memory typically comes in flashes and images. It can feel very disorienting because you might have an image of something, but it doesn't have a beginning, middle, or end. That is your body's way of trying to process the feelings that you had in the past that you weren't able to process back then, typically because you're in fight or flight. And so those are ways that you remember. Thinking about how you're going to prove this to people is secondary to how you are going to accept it and trust it with yourself. Hi. A question I get a lot is, how do I trust my trauma memories? So I'm going to talk a little bit in this video about what traumatic memory looks like so that you'll be better able to support yourself and understand those memories as you're going through them. So first, I just want to say, if you are dealing with processing trauma memories, I feel for you. My heart is with you. I know how difficult and painful that can be. Often you are experiencing your trauma for the first time emotionally as you're remembering and going through that. So I just want to say, take heart. It will get better. I hope you have a trusted guide and therapist that you're doing that work with. First, let's say, I think we've all probably heard that memory is malleable. It is not trustworthy. It just, as a construct, right? People can remember that a car that crashed into them was green when really it was blue. And those types of details can get lost and can get mixed up. The other thing is, we probably all know those family stories that have been told like a gazillion times. Every time a memory / story is told, it takes on a new shape. There's a new reaction you have because now you have a memory of that memory, that you're adding drama and emotion and reaction to it that wasn't there before. It's almost like Xeroxing something again and again with different colors or fonts or whatever. It becomes an iteration of the original. So that's something to keep in mind. I would say that with trauma memory, typically those memories are kept really private. Unfortunately, there's a lot of shame and fear that comes, and so often people are sitting alone with those memories for a long time. So I would argue that makes it more accurate in a sense, because you're not actually having anyone's feedback or like iterations of it, because it's just internal. So let's talk a little bit about why traumatic memory is unique and why it makes it more difficult to trust than other types of memories. One is that they can be horrifying and shocking. When you're remembering something that truly is out of bounds of what we typically experience, talk about, it can be really hard to trust. You're like, wait, what? I'm remembering this thing, like how can that be true? That can't be true. And maybe it really doesn't square with the person who you're remembering doing this to. Like there's someone you have in your mind and then you're having a memory about them in a very different way. So just the horror and shock can make it feel unbelievable, right? And that's true like with grief and things like that as well, that when something is shocking, it's hard to kind of metabolize it and feel that it's true and to trust it. Traumatic memory is unique. So if you think about what you did for your last birthday, maybe you had a party, you remember who was there, what you ate, what kind of cake you had, maybe you even remember what you wore. That's an episodic memory. You can you got a beginning, a middle, and an end. Traumatic memory typically comes in flashes and images. It can feel very disorienting because you might have an image of something, but it doesn't have a beginning, middle, or end. You might have a big emotional reaction to a flash of something that on the face of it might not even feel traumatic. It might be a door, an image of a door. It might be the print of a wallpaper from a bedroom in your childhood home. I mean, these are just random examples I'm making up, but it can be something that benign. It can also be something actually more scary, more horrifying, that you're just having a flash where you're like, is that just like this weird random thing that's going through my mind? Is that even a memory, right? It can feel very surreal. Usually these types of memories, when they are rooted in trauma, are going to keep reappearing. They're not just the random one-off of some random thing you think about. Like, there's a lot of research where people, let's say you're driving over a bridge and you have a thought, I should jump. Like you're having like an image of that, a flash of that. That's not a memory. That's just like a random impulse, versus these types of memories typically keep showing up. They're things to pay attention to and to begin to sort of trust the web of things that you're remembering. I'd also say traumatic memory comes in different forms. So not just the episodic piece, but we're thinking about the emotional and somatic, which basically means physical reactions that you have to certain things. So if you have a big emotional reaction to something in the present moment, they say if it's hysterical, it's historical. But that's something to pay attention to. Like, there's something that may seem kind of benign in the moment that you're feeling enraged about, or a ton of fear, or you're having a panic attack, or you're dissociating and you're just shut down and frozen. That can be your body's way of having a memory and processing a memory. You know, it's considered re-experiencing and kind of like a flashback in a way, but that is your body's way of trying to process the feelings that you had in the past that you weren't able to process back then, typically because you're in fight or flight. And so those are ways that you remember. It can feel confusing when you're not able to tie those reactions in the present to what happened in the past. So I would say part of the work is figuring out what those connections are and starting to have an understanding of this web of trauma reactions that you might have. Typically, there's certain feelings, certain behaviors, there's certain pattern to it, that the more you're able to recognize it, the more you're able to say, okay, what is this related to? What is my body and brain trying to remember and trying to tell me? I want to say that almost nobody wants their trauma to be true. Certainly with sexual abuse and assault, I have not worked with anybody whose brain is trying to convince them that something's true. It's like they know something's true. They're having body reactions and emotional reactions and these memories that are confusing, but their brain's saying, no, not true. You're probably making this up. It's probably not true because of this. It's probably not true because of that. And you are perverted. You are crazy. You are fill in the blank. Right? Your brain is trying to get yourself out of it because it is so difficult. I just want to say that because trusting yourself is important to get into a place of acceptance and doing the work and moving on. But the process is nuanced in that way. Our body, as Dr. Van Kolk has told us, keeps the score. Our body knows what's true and holds that. It's your brain that's trying to think your way around it and out of it. So when it comes to trust, you don't need to uphold every single detail in a court of law. I know some of you may be going into court and might be actually needing to do that. That's a whole nother category. I'm talking about getting to a place of truth and trust and acceptance with yourself. I have seen that the people that I needed to prove my case to about what happened to me weren't going to believe me, no matter how credible I was, no matter if there was a line of other victims out the door, no matter if I had tangible evidence. It didn't matter what I said. They weren't able to psychologically hold space for the truth. The people who did believe me from the get. I didn't need proof. I didn't need to litigate a case. And I just want to say, thinking about how you're going to prove this to people is secondary to how you are going to accept it and trust it with yourself. And it is not linear. It's not like one day you're like, check, I'm in full acceptance. It's a process. It evolves. But part of that is leaving yourself enough space that when these things come up to say, okay, I can sit with this for a little bit longer. I can be curious about this instead of just trying to push it down, push it away and tell myself it's not true. That is my little spiel about traumatic memory. I will be following up with another video about how you can trust these memories further and what to do with them. Thank you. Bye.